You're listening to episode 103 of the D6 podcast.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
This is the family ministry podcast that helps you connect the church and home. I hope everybody's doing well today. We've got Jim and Lynne Jackson talking about the 4 strengths of every great family. I said this a little bit in the last show. I want to make sure I say it again. These folks were some of my favorite interviews this year at the D6 conference. They nailed it. You're going to love it. And then after that, we've got our man, Ron Hunter. He's kind of teasing his Connect Tour talk, and I need to share with y'all a little bit of a moment we had in preparation for this because I'm doing it.
There is just such transparency on this show. I love it.
Because Ron's like, hey, everybody, before we get started, I need to take a break and go get my notes, make sure I understand. And we're all like, oh, wow, okay. And then he walks in with a Post-it note that I saw it. It has 2 sentences. So I'm hoping this is going to be amazing. We'll see. No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, well, our producer put me up to this like last night in an email, but just before midnight says, hey, Ron, can you talk about so-and-so? I'm like, sure, I can talk about this.
And depending on how this goes, it might be our former producer. Yeah. It might be our producer. We'll see.
Or we might have a new host next year because you don't like anything like this and you're going to kick me out.
All right. So we've got some fun planned for today. Now, I need to ask if we have, I'm looking for our audience. I want to know, do we have anybody in North Carolina? I'm looking for people in Greensboro, Raleigh-Durham, Charlotte,
and
Wilmington.
Winston-Salem.
And Winston-Salem?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, do you live in North Carolina?
Yes.
Because we want to talk to you. And also Spartanburg, South Carolina, and Hotlanta, Georgia.
Exactly.
Now,
exactly.
Are any of you out there? Because if you are, here's Ron's cell phone number. You need to call him.
Oh, no. We're not going to be that transparent, are we?
Why are we looking for North Carolina, Spartanburg, South Carolina, and Hotlanta? What do we want from them?
Real simple, because every time the D6 conference goes to a different city, we go out there and we have what's called the Connect Tour. And this is a chance to connect people back to what D6 is. And we bring in 3 speakers, and everybody has to eat lunch.
That's
so
right.
Basically, we're offering a little bit longer lunch for them to hear from 3 speakers and get a little bit of a taste of what our D6 conference is like and be able to rub shoulders with the 3 speakers. So from roughly 10 o'clock until 12 noon, 12:30, you just come to one of these locations. You'll get to hear from 3 speakers. You'll have a box lunch and have a great time. We're going to give away prizes. It's going to be a blast, and you can bring your staff.
I think one of the uniquenesses about this is most conferences say hear from, but let's add a little bit to be more descriptive about this. It's hear from and talk to.
Yes.
And ask questions of 3 speakers,
exactly.
Which brings more value. If I'm in North Carolina, South Carolina, or Georgia, I'm thinking, wow, free lunch and interaction with people.
That's right, because the interaction will come 2 ways. Each one of the speakers will deliver basically a TED Talk kind of concept, a mini.
Nice.
And then we'll have a 4th session where there's a panel discussion and people can ask questions openly. But here's the beauty of this, and all of our speakers, every year we do this. We sit at the table and eat lunch with the people. We sit there and we talk with them. We get into their contacts. We ask them what's their successes, what's going on. And this makes us stronger with our content too, because we're learning from these leaders in the field, but we just get that interaction and we'll hang out before and after the event. We're not rushed here.
Okay, you've heard it. South Carolina, or basically all of North Carolina, Spartanburg, South Carolina, Hotlanta, Georgia. If you're in any of those areas, you might want to go check out d6connecttour.com and check that out. But while you're here, let's jump into one of the coolest interviews I've enjoyed in a long time. After the break, we're going to hear from Jim and Lynne Jackson.
D6 curriculum is centered on the discipleship philosophy found in Deuteronomy 6, that parents and grandparents should be primary in the discipleship of their children. To accomplish this, D6 curriculum aligns every age in church on the same biblical passage or topic. Family alignment serves as a catalyst for parents to have conversations with their children about faith in the home. D6 also provides many other tools to help parents and grandparents. Learn how D6 curriculum can empower parents in your ministry at d6family.com.
We are with Jim and Lynne Jackson. Thank you guys for being with us today.
Oh, it's great to be here.
We're excited.
The Jacksons work with single parents, adoptive parents, parents of teens, parents of kids. Are there any parents that we've left out that you don't work with?
We do our best to
with them all.
meet them all where they're at.
But in particular, the parents of kids with intense behavior challenges, parents in blended families, parents of wealth, and parents. Never mind, not in particular. We're going to keep going. This is great. But they're committed to challenge, encourage, and equip you to be a thoughtful and confident parent. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for being here.
Yeah.
Today I want to talk to you about 4 strengths of every great family, because you've come to D6 and that's what you're doing a seminar on. I saw that and I thought, I want to know what these 4 strengths are. So if you don't mind, let's start by just rolling through those.
Yeah.
I'm betting that there are ministers listening to this. Just so you know, age-graded ministers are listening to this. Children's ministers, youth ministers.
Cool.
And so our whole goal here is to help our families be great. So how can we accomplish that? So what's the first one?
Well, 4 strengths of every great family comes out of a book we wrote called How to Grow a Connected Family. And it's really a framework that we teach parents that helps them not only learn some cool, inspiring, helpful, equipping concepts, but then remember them when the heat is on. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of been our goal all along. We've been teaching parenting for well over 20 years. And the first strength that we talk about of every great family is the strength of a strong foundation, a foundation rooted and grounded in identity in Christ, rooted and grounded in a strong sense of individual purpose, a strong sense of insight about me, about what's going on in me, about how what's going on in me affects how I treat other people. And so this strong foundation is really the underlying part of a strong family that parents are responsible to lead the way in before they teach their kids about it. Because if you want to teach your kids spirituality, but you yourself aren't really grounding and growing in God's grace and truth, your kids just read that as hypocrisy. So getting this foundation, it's never perfect, we're always growing, but growing a strong foundation is strength number 1.
All right.
And that really allows us to be authentic with our kids and humble before them, because we're receiving God's grace and truth and passing it on. And when that foundation is in place, then we can go and really relate to kids with that second strength, which is just to connect. Not just to say, I love you, kid, but I love you and enjoy you. Mm-hmm. And that's what's so key in relationships with kids, is that they feel enjoyed. Just because, like so many of us, we know God loves us, but does he enjoy us? And so we teach parents ways to communicate love, not so that it can be understood, but so their kids can't miss it. Yeah. And they really do feel loved and enjoyed. So many behavior challenges just disappear when kids feel that way. Mm-hmm. So we talk about lots of practical ways to help parents get that message through to their kids.
Yep, so if your watchers, listeners are tracking with us, we got this foundation at the base, and then we build on the foundation to connection.
Okay.
And then strength number 3.
Let's bring it.
Is an environment of coaching. We coach. We take on the attitude of a coach with our kids, not a coach who waits for kids to make mistakes. That's what we do when we correct our kids, which is the 4th principle, and it's important. But when we coach our kids, we're really about proactive. And D6, honestly, is all about let's be proactive to coach our kids, to train our kids in the way they should go, to bring them up, to help them know their gifts, know that God gave them those gifts for His purpose resources, to be a blessing in the world, and let's get intentional about that. Let's not wait for misbehavior to try to do our teaching about what's right from wrong and building character, but let's be out ahead of it, because if we're not out ahead of it, somebody is coaching our kids. There's influences all over the place, teachers, media, friends, neighbors, whatever it might be. Our kids are getting coached. The question is, are we aware of the coaching we're doing with our kids and being proactive about that?
And that coach is it's setting up specific opportunities for kids to learn, and it's also asking thoughtful questions. Jesus asked 304 questions that were recorded in Scripture, and parents sometimes just think, I'm going to build values and skills by lecturing, telling them what I think. But to coach our kids really means asking thoughtful questions to elicit their thinking and thought process. So those values and skills come from within and not just from being
When we tell kids what to do, it doesn't engage their brains the same way. They don't learn the same way. They might learn to respond to our big energy to get them to do what we want them to do, but their brains don't go into a process by which they understand why they're doing it and what their other options might be and what the impact of their behavior might be. And so good coaching really comes alongside a child and helps them to do this, and questions is a key part. So if you're a 5-year-old and you're looking at what you're going to do, I might say, instead of saying, no, don't do that, which is default for parents, I might say, boy, it looks like you're looking at a couple of different things. What are you thinking about? Which one do you think is best? Why? Well, did you know that there's some things that might happen if you do that wouldn't happen if you did that? Do you know what those are? And now all of a sudden a 5-year-old child, or 3 even, is their brain is starting to engage. Or like, what? And that's learning. That's important learning, because they're learning cause, effect, and wisdom rather than just respond to big, angry adults.
Yeah, growing wisdom and purpose is really kind of the end goal of this coach principle.
Nice.
And then on top of that, of course, kids are still going to misbehave, and we need to correct them.
No, honey. If we do this perfectly, we don't have to worry about this correction discipline thing.
And so often, parents will come to us, and that's their felt need. What's the consequence to make this behavior stop? And when they focus on punishment, it discourages the child, builds resentment. And so we help parents embrace a focus on reconciliation. And Galatians 6:1 says, if anyone is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual, restore that person gently. So we just apply that to parenting.
Gently.
It's about
Where's
restoration.
Gently. Yeah. It's so hard for us as parents to wrap our heads around this idea of gentle discipline. We think it needs to be firm. We think we need to mean business. We think we need to be the parent. And those things might all be true, but probably not most of the time. A little bit here and there, because we've won the trust of our kids by being gentle most of the time. So when we get serious, they know we really mean business this time.
And being the parent, we think, means leading our child in building a value of reconciliation and then teaching them the skills about how to do that, holding them accountable. So, the underlying principle is effective discipline puts responsibility on the child to make right what they've made wrong.
So, and really what happened is we wrote this first book, How to Grow a Connected Family. We wrote about these 4 strengths, these 4 principles: a strong foundation, connect, coach, correct. That's the 4 layers, and be thoughtful about those.
Could we not get a C at the bottom?
Can you help us with that? Core or centered. I know we
tried and we tried.
But here's the thing. We actually talked and laughed about that, because the foundation really at the end of the day is not about what we do with our kids. It's about something that we do. It's between us and God. It's about personal, private work. It's about my own devotional life. It's about my own growth and insight about me and what's going on in me. And it is different. And then we grow out of that foundation into relationship with our kids, which is the 3 C words. But what happened was, as we wrote that book and published it in 2005.
Okay.
And it's been very popular and well-liked on Amazon. But then people said, that last section isn't very long, the section about correction. Can you tell us more about that? And so that's what led us to write about discipline and really start focusing on and paying attention to the role that discipline has even in the spiritual formation of our kids. So this thing that Lynne just said is really important. It's my goal not to manage behavior when I discipline my kids. It's my goal to shape their belief. And when we discipline our kids, maybe as powerfully as at any other time, we're shaping not how they behave, but what they believe about themselves
what they believe about themselves, the subtle underneath the surface messages that parents inadvertently, unintentionally communicate during discipline are often, through body language and tone of voice, are often messages like "you're a problem," "you're a pain in the neck," you're disrespectful and disobedient and irresponsible, and "you're in control of my emotions." Now, parents don't realize they're communicating those messages, but that's the messages kids are getting that become their inner voice, that become their identity. And from that identity flows lots of more of that same difficult behavior.
Yeah, out of the abundance of our hearts, our mouths speak. Another way that you might think about that is that based on how I identify myself, that's how I behave. And our kids, if we send them lots of "you are" messages like the ones Lynne's talking about, "you're a pain, you're a problem," and so on, then they start to believe that's true about themselves, and then they naturally behave that way. And then we discipline them for their behavior, but what we're not attentive to is that their behavior is flowing out of their identity. And we don't even pay attention to that in our default as parents because we're moving so fast and we want to get this done and we want to be the parent and we want to get this right. And the pace of our culture has compelled us as parents, wrongfully so we think, to get stuff done quickly and efficiently. Discipline is not a quick and efficient matter. Yeah.
Wow. You guys are amazing here. So you've got another seminar called Siblings, and I've got 2 boys, so bring this on. I'm ready for you. From bickering to bonding. I think we might go viral if you can give us some help with this. Now, how in the world can we accomplish this?
Well, I think that there's 2 really underlying challenges that parents face that they're not even aware of in the sibling issue. And one is the kids don't value the relationship as much as is really necessary for them to start to work through problems. And they don't value reconciliation. So a parent's primary job really is to help them really learn to value that sibling relationship, enjoy it, so that they want to get back to the joy.
Yeah.
And then to see reconciliation as that's what reconciliation is about. So we can get back to the joy that we were created for in this relationship. So we try to make that practical for parents because oftentimes how they engage with sibling conflict makes the relationship more problematic, less appealing, and also makes reconciliation less appealing.
Well,
Say you're sorry. It's like, that's not.
And to go back to the framework that we talked about in our first book, I mean, we really talk about sibling relationships in that context with different words. And the framework, if you think about what parents typically do when their kids fight, what do? We go, "Hey, you kids, stop that. You need to get along. You say you're sorry. You say you're sorry. Hey, that's not okay. No. You go to your room and don't come out until you can say you're sorry."
You don't treat your sister like that.
You don't treat your sister like that. That is not okay. And so what are kids learning right now? And what's going on in me right now? And am I getting back to that foundation? Whereby I communicate a message to my child, "You're safe with me here. I'm for you, not against you." If you're my child and I act that way with you, do you feel like I'm for you or against you?
Against me.
Yeah, so what do I need to do as a parent with these kids to be calm, to settle down? This isn't my conflict, it's theirs. How do I lead? And we have a little picture that we draw. How do I lead the way off of Crazy Mountain? There's a stream here, and on the other side of the stream is Reconciliation Meadow, right? And we talk about it's our job as parents to climb down off of Crazy Mountain by stepping on the first stone across that stream, which is the stone of calming. How do I calm me? How do I model that for my kids in a way that they can start to learn to calm down as well? That's all foundational stuff, right? And then how do I help them understand themselves and the emotions that they've got? Where's empathy showing up in any of this? How do I empathize? How do I help them learn to empathize? That's the stone of understand each other. So we lead the way. I can't expect them to understand each other if I'm not understanding what's going on in me, if I'm not helping them understand what's going on in each other. And so the second stone, I have to model that and lead the way toward that. And of course, we engage parents in the workshop in all kinds of ways to make this their own information. And then the next stone
is solve. So it goes calm, understand, solve.
Which is really a coaching kind of a thing, right?
And that's where the parent facilitates the kids coming to some sort of agreement that will help them each get a bit of what's important to each one of them.
Yeah.
And then solve after, even if it's messy and it takes a while, the final step is really important, and that is celebrate. And that helps the kids to feel good about whatever they did that was a little better than last time. And that celebrate step or rock or whatever across the stream is really what strengthens the whole process, because then kids are eager to get back and do it again. And we had a little 6-year-old say, her brother whacked her and her dad was in the big, that's not okay, son, go to timeout. And she goes to her dad and says, Daddy, don't put Austin in timeout. Let us do the peace process. Yeah. The kids want to learn to do this. They feel so grown up and good about themselves, especially if we celebrate well at the end of it.
Yeah, we've actually made an online course out of this peace process and the sibling relationship course, and we run into parents that we've never met, and they say, my kids are asking me to do the peace process. I'm like, we can't believe this. It's amazing.
So where can they find that?
So our website is connectedfamilies.org, and we have a bunch of resources. The books are among them, but we provide parent coaching virtually all around the country. We've got online courses, a small but growing menu of courses where people can do this individually or as small groups. And then, of course, we want to partner with churches to build strong families and do workshops in the context of youth leaders, children's ministry leaders, senior pastor leaders. Their vision for equipping parents, if it includes helping bring God's grace and truth into the messes of everyday life kind of stuff, then we would love to be a part of helping to do that, because that's what we've done for the last 20 plus years.
That's amazing. Okay, I need to ask you about this. You are teaching about, I want to get this right. Oh, there you go. You're doing another seminar that hits home for me. It's called Understanding Your Sensitive or Intense Child. I'd like some highlights from that, please.
Well, this is Lynn's sweet
do not charge me for this.
And so you two go real here. But Lynn is an occupational therapist by training and worked in clinic for a long time with kids with sensory and behavioral needs. And so I'm just going to drink coffee and listen to this wise woman spew her nuggets.
Well, this is really about kids' nervous system. Each person's nervous system perceives their body and the environment differently from the next person. And we don't really realize that, the fullness of that. So parents often look at this child and think, you're just like irrational. I don't relate to how you're behaving at all right now. But we don't realize that that child may well be experiencing sensations in their body or what's coming at them, sight and sound kind of things, as overwhelming, much more intense, aversive. They can't adjust the level or intensity of the sensation. It might not match well with other sensations that are coming in. And the world becomes an unsafe, overwhelming, confusing place. Now, that's
and
a
then
lot.
They act out.
And that's a lot of stress, and they act out of that stress just like we would if we were experiencing those kinds of things. It's almost like listening to a radio station. The volume is stuck on high, and it's in between stations, and you get this static and crackle. So it's aversive, it's unpleasant, it's too intense, and you can't really adjust it. So
and then I get loud in order to control my environment, and then I get punished for it.
Yeah. So it's sort of the way they cope is the best defense is a good offense. So if I'm really sensitive to touch, I'm afraid you're going to touch me, I'm going to come up and whack you first, because then you're going to back away.
Yeah.
I feel in control, but I'm just doing coping mechanisms. So when parents can understand how much their kids are actually kind of suffering in this intensity and this sensitivity, it brings compassion, and it also helps parents learn strategies of how to help the child be protected from some of the things that are most aversive to them, and then also introduce calming, pleasant sensations right when they need it. So if dinner time is a crazy time, about an hour before that, you can help the child get some big motor activity, lots of big muscle action, which is calming. You can give them a little back rub, and then you can give them something pleasant to focus on while you're fixing dinner. So you think proactively about how to help them.
Our kids, we affectionately say that our kids had straight A's before school started, which meant they had allergies, ADD, ADHD, and acid reflux.
I love that.
And all all evidence of a wired nervous system.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about this stuff as our kids were growing up, but Lynn had our house equipped with barrels to roll around in,
Yeah,
and blankets
swings
and swings in the basement for kids to swing around in, and all
Mini
kinds
tramp,
of sensory.
hot balls.
Kids, before dinner, you need to go down and jump on the mini tramp for a while, because we knew
Just
if
go
that didn't.
have some fun, be creative downstairs.
So, yeah, that was our early learning.
Yeah.
Well, we need to end this because we need to make arrangements for you to come live at my house. I have a spare room.
Well, we do have a contract in our briefcase.
Yeah, I'll pay
We could
for
do
it.
a little
Let's do
parenting,
this.
parent coaching. I'd give you a freebie session.
That's great. Hey, listen, the books we've mentioned today are How to Grow a Connected Family and Disciplining that Disciplining that Connects with Your Child's Heart.
Yeah.
And the website, if you want to grab these, is connectedfamilies.org. This is Jim and Lynne Jackson. Thank you guys so much for being with us.
Hey, great to be here.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
We're having fun.
The DNA of D6 provides any church an opportunity to plan, strategize, evaluate, and refine their approach to discipleship and family ministry. Dr. Ron Hunter's book shares vital philosophy and strategy built on the foundation of Deuteronomy 6. Readers will be able to build on this foundation to disciple every generation in their church. Each book comes with a free church health assessment. Visit d6family.com to find helpful coaching sessions and resources, and order your copy today.
Jeremy, you're right. Absolutely, Jim and Lynn. Every time people get a chance to hear them, they hear their heart. And a phrase you often use, Jeremy, I love, this is transferable.
Yep.
This is, you got a seminar here that you can take back and use and reteach if you want to. And Jim and Lynn are people that if you want to bring to your church, you should reach out to them, connectedfamilies.org, and talk to them because they're incredible people. Pick up their books. That's a win all the way around.
That's right. And they are, I guess I just always connect to the folks who are gentle in spirit but powerful in their word. And man, that's just the way I would describe them. And you know what, my friend? That is one of the ways I would describe you as well. I've got other ways to describe you.
Yeah, but we're on the air right now.
And so we have been talking a ton about the Connect Tour because that's kind of the season D6 is in right now. I want to make sure everybody can be a part of it. So let's just kind of jump into a little bit more about what you have to offer at the Connect Tour.
Well, Jeremy, as we've already talked about, the Connect Tour is really a wonderful time to meet people. But I don't know if the people out there kind of recognize what some of us do at times. Let me first talk about the speakers coming. And then I'll share with them what I'm thinking along this line. Dr. Edward Moody has been on our main stage, and he's led breakouts year after year. He would be considered what I call core speaker group for us, somebody who understands the D6 philosophy, and no matter what they're teaching on, it bumps right back into God's original heartbeat of Deuteronomy 6. And he is a counselor, he is a pastor, and he's really insightful about this, and he has just re-released a book that has sold bazookas of copies, out there. And he's going to be talking to us at each one of these stops. I will be there, and I will be sharing, and I'll share with you what I do in just a moment. But let me tell you about a person that is going to be an incredible person that we don't always get to hear from. Rob Reno, we hear from a good bit. We published. What people forget is Rob's co-author on many of these books. Amy, his wife.
Yes.
Amy and Lissy, his daughter,
I love
will
that
be
name,
there speaking. Lissy, they will be there speaking together. And then Mark Smith. Mark Smith is the head of family ministry for North Carolina Southern Baptists.
Okay.
Very insightful. He's written before. He puts on conferences. The guy's incredibly talented. And this is going to be our speaker lineup, depending on which city you're going to be in. You're always going to get Dr. Moody and myself, and depending on which sets of dates, you'll either get Amy and Lissy or Mark Smith. And you can't lose on either one of those.
Okay.
And as we approach the D6 Connect Tour, we often use it as a preview into an expanded message that we're going to use at D6. At least that's my practice. I use this because if you go on this tour and you deliver this talk, and at this point, I'll deliver this same talk 7 times. We have 4 stops the first week, and we have 3 stops the second week. There's a new addition that we have dropped in that even on these notes doesn't have it. We'll be at Piedmont University on the 24th. And so it's really rich. And so this is a chance for us to use new content that we've not delivered before in the same way and see how the audience interacts, shape it, and it honestly gets shaped from one day to the next because we deliver the content from 10 to 12:30. We close down, we pack up, we get in the van, we drive to the next city and repeat the next day. It really gets you a chance to hone your message. And so I was thinking through that whatever I use here, and historically I always use on the main stage in a more expanded level. And the topics that I've been playing with for this year comes from a little bit of a story that just happened to me. I was at a conference and I was speaking and exhibiting, and it finished up a day, like a half a day earlier. And I'd planned to stay that night in a hotel, and then I was going to have to drive a long ways back to the city where I flew into. And we got done earlier, and so I was able to pack up and head back to the city so I'd be closer to the airport the next day when I flew out. Well, I get there, I go out to eat in that city closest to the airport. I go out and eat. I come back, I settle in my room, and I'm setting up, getting ready for the night. I'm reading, but I have very specific routines I go through. I set up my toiletries, I unpack my bag, I lay out my clothes for the next day. And when I was going through that routine, I realized I didn't have my toiletries. Nothing, 0. And so I had to call back to the hotel I just checked out of and said, hey, did you find this? I told them what room. They called me back and said, yes, we've got it. We're going to send it to you. Every time we go on a trip, though, there are must-pack items. What must we pack on every trip we go? I've got a suitcase. I'm on the road a good bit. I never take my toiletries out of it, so it's not my toiletries from home. There's already packed up. There's certain things that just stay in my suitcase that must go. And then I add to the other items that also must go. I'm applying that to a church. When we examine healthy churches around the country, what are the must-pack ingredients that go into churches that are healthy? I'm not talking programs. I'm talking what are the ingredients that make them very healthy, make them very strong, that I don't care if you go to Dallas or we go to, Winston-Salem, we're going to find churches that are really doing it well, and we're sitting back going, what are they doing that I'm not doing? I'm trying to find those key core elements, and we're going to expand on those items and see what we need to do, and we're going to apply it to here. Here's the key. How do you do it with imperfect families? Because nobody in church is ministering to 100% wonderful, great moms, great dads, great parenting skills, great kids, perfect teenagers. It's just not happening. And I do not want people to think that D6 paints this picture of, hey, we're starting with perfect families. We're going to teach you how to minister to perfect families, and this is going to be ideal, because nobody has that starting point. So what are the must-pack ingredients for us, starting with imperfect families, for us to be a D6 church and be healthy and strong?
And guys, that was all from a Post-it note. Are y'all not impressed with that? Wow! The Dr. Ron Hunter, ladies and gentlemen. Way to go. I'm so excited about that. Hey, listen, the Connect Tour is happening in April and May this year. That's why we're talking about it so much. Some of you may listen to this episode in August and you're like, why are they talking so much about the Connect Tour? You can catch it next year. Because as we're kind of understanding the calendar for D6, you have D6 days kind of earlier in the year. You have Connect Tour around the spring. And then you have the conference in the fall. So if you are trying to feel our vibe, I'll make it easy for you. That's how you can jump in on what's kind of going on. And so this is really one of the hearts of what's going on, because it's smaller, it's more personal, and it's a real connection with the ministers in those cities. So thank you for giving kind of a preview of that. And as we're talking previews, let's preview next week. Who do we got?
Sean McDowell, you're interviewing him. I mean, wow. I mean, that's you get to interview people that other people just dream of just shaking their hand, and you get to sit down and spend time with them.
I know. That's why this is the coolest gig ever.
It truly is.
And I want to honor Sean, because every time I do this, because I feel like a guy like him probably gets connected to his father a lot. And let's just not talk about it right now. For this moment, let's just
Absolutely.
He is Sean stinking McDowell, because he earned the right.
He is.
To so I in a very weird way did connect him to his father, but I'm trying to honor the fact that he is his own legit expert in apologetics, and he's smart as a whip.
He is indeed. In all respect, I've not heard every apologist out there. I've heard quite a few. I love listening to Sean. He brings it to our culture in a way that we understand, and he convicts me every time he talks. I'm like, oh man, I gotta think through how I'm viewing this, or why am I listening to this, or watching this, or how am I interpreting. He put a piece of art up there on the screen when I last heard him in person, and talked about this very famous painting and the light that was almost snuffed out from the gospel, but God kept it alive. And I'm like, I had no idea how to interpret that piece of art. I mean, Sean is just brilliant.
And then we'll also have my friend Tammy Daughtry. She is so good. She taught me that term, co-parenting. She works with couples who've gone through divorce and that are parents, and she works with step families, blended families, all of the different scenarios that are involved with that, and she helps them operate in a healthy way. We'll be hearing from her. I'm so glad she's on the podcast. That's awesome. So, hey, I want to mention before we go, if you are ever listening to this on iTunes, I think right up in the top left corner, there's a place where you can click on reviews. Give us an honest review, as long as it's 4 or 5 stars. And if it's not, never mind. Don't listen to me. And then let us know what you think of the podcast. That always helps us, not just for vanity and ego. It is for, because what iTunes does when they get those reviews is they share our podcast with more people. So we ask that you would do that if you are ever able. It's no big deal if you can't. What we would love, though, is to make sure next Tuesday, always every Tuesday, you think about that as D6 Podcast Day. And please have a great week of ministry. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com. And if you're a minister, we invite you to join the D6 Leader Network by going to d6leader.net.